Welcome from Sebener Street, from the last practice session of the German record champion ahead of tomorrow's round of 16 Champions League encounter at Lazio Rome. And next to me, the former number 25. His first name is Thomas. It's not Thomas Müller, it's Thomas Linke. It's the predecessor of today's number 25. Good to have you in the show. How are you doing? What are you doing these days? Well, I'm fine. In winter, I usually like to go skiing, but unfortunately, it doesn't look too good in the mountains. So I had the time to come to the studio today. And you're gonna accompany the team to Rome as a legend. And just to get you up to speed, he was a Champions League winner in 2001 and had a couple of German Cups and German Championships, but we don't want to look that far back, not to Saturday's tough loss, obviously, but we want to look ahead to tomorrow's round of 16 fixture against Lazio. Lazio are currently 8th in the Serie A. Bayern is the favorite, but after Saturday's game, what is the approach to tomorrow's Champions League encounter? Yeah, usually it was the strength of Bayern Munich that after not so successful games, they showed a different face in the next game. And Champions League is always something special. In the knockout stages, you have to be there, and you know it, and that's what they're going to do. So the team is coming out of the locker rooms now onto the pitch, and we are gonna be allowed to show you the first 15 minutes, which is open to the media. Thomas Tuchel is going to try to practice something special with the team afterwards. They're all sporting the Champions League team line. And Thomas, we were just talking about it. You were the last player at the Champions League final in 2001 to shoot a penalty. Oliver Kahn actually saved the final penalty. Did you ever think about what had happened if it happened differently, if Kahn would have caught the ball first and then you were to shoot your penalty? No, it was never in my mind. It was just a sensational achievement from the whole team and every Bayern fan who was at the stadium back then and who was at Barcelona as well will remember who was on the pitch, who scored the penalties, and how it really felt in 1999 to not win the Champions League, even though we were all but having the cup in our hands already. But, well, usually only one player is the hero.
Der Olli hat vielleicht dann herausgestochen, ja. Also Thomas Linke hat damals vor dem entscheidenden gehaltenen Elfmeter den letzten verwandelt, ich glaube als 7. Schütze damals. Richtig. Eiskalt verwandelt?
Eiskalt.
But you scored the penalty stone cold. Yes. I think I only scored one penalty in my career, so I was pretty sure that I'd score it.
Auch, dass wir mit Schalke den UEFA Cup in dem Stadion geholt haben im Elfmeterschießen, und von daher hatte ich das ganze Jahr über schon mit Jens Jeremies immer so ein bisschen geflaxt. Ich habe gesagt, Jerry, bring uns nach Mailand, den Rest mache ich dann schon.
And we were saying, well, Jerry, just lead us to Milan and we will be ready. So you know that Thomas Linke, he has the best experience with Italy, where he won the Champions League with Bayern Munich. They're going to travel to Rome today. Have you ever been to Rome? No, I've never been there, but I'm really looking forward to it. That was the stadium where our national team won the European Championship and the World Championship. And Bayern, they want to take the first step. Currently are in the warm-up. The last 5 games against Italian teams were all won by Bayern Munich. Is that something that the players will have in the back of their heads? No, I don't think so. Every game is completely different, so you're not too interested in those stats. But if you're looking at Lazio, I'm not too much of an expert for Italian football, but I was talking to an expert of late, and he said, well, they were really doing a good job in the past couple of years and weeks, and they're really tough to beat, but they have lost a couple of important players, and they're have not yet reached their limit yet, so they are only a mid-table team this season, so Bayern should be the clear favorite. They've been in second place last season behind Naples. Now they're in 8th position. They made it to the knockout stages via the second place in their group. And a couple of years ago, Bayern already played Lazio. It was in front of empty seats, unfortunately, when Bayern won 4-1 in the first game. And Jamal Musiala scored one of those goals. He's the youngest Champions League goal scorer today. And then there's another player, Ciro Immobile. He's probably the most famous player there. He's a striker. How would Thomas Linke have fared against Ciro Immobile? Well, I don't know. I think we defended differently back then than we do today, because today it's more about the spaces. Back then it was more about a duel. I would have probably tried to just hard tackle him early so he gets a bit of fear coming close to me. And how would you have fared against Harry Kane? Well, I think those are completely different striking type of players. Immobile is the classical box striker, and Harry Kane, he tracks back a lot. He could also play as a number 10, so it's hard to really get a grip on him when he tracks back, when he falls back a bit. You don't know whether you should follow him, and so he gets a chance to get to the ball, turn, and then score his goal. So it's a difficult striker to play against. The final will be played at Wembley Stadium, which will probably be even more motivation for Harry Kane and the other Bayern Munich players as well. Is that at all playing a role in the back of the heads of the Bayern Munich players, that the final will be at Wembley, or is it just too far away in this stage of the Champions League? But was that in the back of your mind, that you had the goal of the Champions League final, or did you just think from game to game? Well, like I said, back in the year in 2001, it was really special. We knew that it was at Milan, and I really had good experience. And that's why we had that banter with Jerry, because you know where the final is, and when you play for Bayern Munich, you always know that your goal is to reach the final, and then you obviously have it in the back of your mind, and just can't help it. Well, obviously, we'd like to have both the final at Wembley and the final in Munich next season, but we think we're going from game to game, and the next game is tomorrow at Rome. 3 years ago, Bayern won both duels. Usually in the Champions League, Bayern, they tend to reach the knockout stages. They are unbeaten in 40 group games. How much do you think will that help the team when you know, well, we had a really good group stage, or is that just far away because you have to start anew in the knockout stages. Well, obviously you start the knockout stages from scratch, but your opponent will always look back a bit to the knockout to the group stage, I beg your pardon, and see, well, how did they actually fare in that group stage. So I think it really earns a bit of respect. Maurizio Sarri is the coach. He's very outspoken. They have played very often 1-0 score lines. What does that say about the team? Back in the days, we would have said, is it a catenaccio? Is that what they play? Well, it doesn't sound too attractive. It sounds a bit like Hoop Stevens, that you need to have the clean sheet first. But I believe that they have the possibility and the capability of scoring more than once, but they definitely concede a bit more than they did last year. So there is a chance for your opponent to score more than once against them. How important is it for the return fixture? Could you also play tactically and think from the 70th minute on, maybe, well, we settle for a draw and then we're waiting for a home game? Well, it's a bit different than it was back in the days, because the away goal doesn't count double anymore. And when you know, well, I can win the game, I'm on the front foot, and it's still 1-1, then you want to win the game, obviously.
Dass die Bayern ja morgen mitten im Sieg dann eben ins Rückspiel gehen können. In den letzten 11 Achtelfinal-Hinspiele haben sie nie verloren. Das ist schon mal eine gute
Bayern never lost in their last 11 first round of knockout fixtures.
Auch am 14. Februar, am Valentinstag mit 1:0 gewonnen. Also hoffen wir, dass sie morgen auch da den Grundstein
also won the last time they played on the February 14th. So we have Mathys Tel. He's a great super sub, where he scored twice already. He has 3 goal participations in only 54 minutes of playing time in the Champions League. Mathys Tel, to me, is someone who really comes in from the bench. He looks fresh. He looks really witty, and yeah, I think this in the squad he's really a great player, because we miss a couple of players who are injured, and Tel is really a player with a huge talent. He's shown that in the Bundesliga, in the Champions League already, where he scored goals, and he showed how difficult it is to play against him in one-on-one situations, and he really is a good striker of the ball as well. And once he enters the pitch, he plays against defenders that are no longer really fresh, and so that gives him a slight advantage, and we have a good possibility with him, bringing him on.
Ich habe es eingangs erwähnt, TL25. Habt ihr euch jemals irgendwie drüber unterhalten, ausgetauscht? Nummer 25, wie ist es bei dir dazu gekommen, die 25?
You were playing with number 25 back in the days. How did that come about? Well, I don't really know exactly. I wore the number 2 at Schalke, and the number 2 was already occupied, and so we somehow came to the number 25. We've never talked about it. I've never talked to Thomas about it. And in my last season, I played with Thomas Müller when he was a youngster in the second team of Bayern Munich. And you could really tell that he was an outstandingly talented player. It was really impressive, but I don't know why he took the number 25. I don't think it was because I was such a great striker. That's so why he took the number 25. I think we should ask him once. Did you have to show him a couple of times? Well,
ist er manchmal so und glaube ich, tut vielleicht so jungen
draw some stop lines for him.
Notwendig.
Or wasn't that even necessary? No, it wasn't really necessary. He came in the second round of fixtures and he was really blending in well, and you can see even in 5-against-2 situations where a player has really knowledge about the game, and other candidates that we had that were already in pre-season with the first team, and they were coming to a team that was already playing together nicely, and we had to change a couple of things, which wasn't easy all the time.
Schon eingangs erwähnt, also die ersten 15 Minuten, ein paar Minuten bleiben uns wahrscheinlich noch.
So again, we are allowed to bring to you the first 15 minutes of that Champions League practice session, the final practice session ahead of the Champions League game against Lazio. How was it to you one day ahead of the game?
Was wurde da noch einstudiert? Wie wichtig war das
für
die Spannung? Oder
what was
Vorfreude auf das Spiel, dass das
actually
Pflichtprogramm, sage ich mal, war?
On tap for the practice, and what were you looking forward to? Well, it was more or less routine back in these days, but with us, one day ahead of the game, we were having a video session with the videos of the opponent, and we had the practice session in the stadium of the opponent. And in order to get a feel for the stadium and the pitch, and then we were practicing dead ball situations, playing at 10 against 10, 10 against 0 in order to get our rhythm going, and that's what the final practice was for.
Hat es nochmal mehr Vorfreude geweckt, oder wäre das für dich persönlich jetzt egal gewesen, ob im Stadion oder an der Ebene?
Heutzutage ist es so, du hast ja in den meisten Stadien schon gespielt.
Well, nowadays you usually have played in most stadiums already, so you only need a short stint to get a feel for the pitch and for the stadium, and so it's the decision of the coach whether they have the final practice session actually in the stadium or at home on the training pitch.
Da kommst du jetzt nicht drum rum. Im Vorgespräch davor habe ich erfahren, Thomas Linke, der hatte eine sehr, sehr ausgeschlafene Vorbereitung.
Thomas Linke, one important part of your preparation was sleeping. Yes, I liked playing at night because I had the whole day time to sleep, and those days are really long when you play in the evenings, and you have so much time where you cannot do too much really, so I really slept for many hours throughout the day.
Manche, bei denen steigt wahrscheinlich die Spannung, und andere, die kommen so noch mal ganz gut runter.
Ja, du darfst die Spannung nicht zu früh aufbauen.
Well, you just must not raise the tension too early. You have to stay calm for most of the days, and now we can see Thomas Tuchel.
Zurückschauen kann bis auf das 0-0 gegen Kopenhagen zu Hause. 5 Siege, und ich glaube auch mit dem Selbstbewusstsein kann man danach
5 victories after the group stage. Bayern should get into this game with lots of self-confidence.
Was da für ein Pfund auf den FC Bayern zukommt. Lazio Rom, ganz interessant, hatte ich gar nicht so auf dem Zettel.
What's interesting is
die K.O.-Phase in der Champions League erreicht. 99, 2000, Viertelfinale gegen Valencia und dann gegen uns vor 3 Jahren. Haben jetzt in der Champions League tatsächlich gar nicht so eine große Erfahrung. Wie viel macht auch das aus, dass du diese Erfahrung in den K.O.-Spielen hast?
How important is it to have experience at knockouts games? Well, if you're talking about Italian football, you don't really think of Lazio and in the first place. It's more about the Milan teams. So Lazio probably doesn't have the approach of needing to win those games and actually being able to win the games. We once won 7-1, and so the Lazio fans might think, well, hopefully we don't concede 7 goals. So you really have to approach the game as knowing we are the favorites and knowing what you can do.
90 Minuten, dann gegen 3:30 ist der Abflug. Um 17 Uhr kommt man dann in der italienischen Hauptstadt an. Und für euch alle heute 18:45 Uhr gibt es die Abschluss-PK mit Thomas Tuchel.
So today we have the press conference ahead of the game tomorrow at 6:45 p.m. Central European Time for you. Make sure you watch that. We'll have translation in English, Spanish, and obviously the original German version for you. Did you have those final practice sessions where you were drawing a bit of sweat early in the day when you have the game at night? And how did you feel about it? Well, it depended on when you play. We had a little bit of like 20-minute session where we were light running drills maybe, and then a bit of taking a walk, and that was basically it. And it depends on which feeling the coach has, whether practice will be better later at night or will be better this morning, because you don't want to create a tension too early, but you want to keep the tension up during the game, obviously.
Ob ich spiele oder nicht, aber das hast du auch als Spieler, hast du das im Gefühl. Du siehst ja im Wochenverlauf auch, wer ein Leibchen kriegt, wer keins kriegt. Und dann gibt es vielleicht ein, zwei Positionen, die am Wochenende.
The question, who's in the starting 11? Well, you have the feeling once you're at the team for a bit longer, who gets a colored jersey and who doesn't get it, and all this. And then you realize how those decisions are made and when those decisions are made, and then you can cope with them usually better. And you know, sometimes there are coaches that will make a decision when they see you in the morning and they see how you walk and how you behave at the breakfast, and that might change their decision, actually.
Ob es da schon eine Ansage gibt wegen der Zeit, weil es manchmal dann auch sehr, sehr plötzlich ist. Viertelstunde, wir müssen aufhören. Gibt es da eine Information, wie lange wir noch drauf sein dürfen?
So the question to
Journalisten sind noch da. Wir machen noch so lange
the
weiter.
crew, whether we are still allowed to show the practice session, whether the 15 minutes are already over.
Joshua Kimmich. So
here's Joshua Kimmich after his shoulder injury. He appears to be 100% fit and ready again, as it seems like the Bayern Munich players are leaving this particular part of the training facilities and now moving to another place where we don't have access with our cameras.
Aus der Vergangenheit kam es mir oft so vor, dass dann im März, April, dass da die Ausfälle gekommen sind, dass sie vielleicht jetzt dann so ausfallen, dass sie zum Ende hin alle fit wären.
I once had the impression that the players sometimes are out for a couple of weeks early in the season. So now the open to the press practice session is over. And we are not allowed to show you any more of that. So that's it from the Sebener Straße today, but I won't let you go before you give us a tip. Well, I think it's going to be a 3-1 for Bayern tomorrow. Yeah, We're gonna take that,
Also,
no
dir viel
doubt.
Spaß in Rom.
So have
Spaß
fun in
morgen Abend. Vielen
Rome.
Dank, dass du hier warst.
Have fun
Und,
tomorrow.
ja, ihr könnt
Thanks
morgen auch
for
gerne einschalten,
stopping
21
by, and
Radio,
don't forget
wer es nicht
to
oder zusätzlich zum Bildschirm verfolgen möchte. Und wie schon erwähnt, heute
check
18:45
out our audio
Abschluss
program
mit Thomas Tuchel und mit Manuel Neuer.
tomorrow
Könnt ihr auch
for
auf
the live
unseren
broadcast.
Kanälen
And
verfolgen.
today
Das
we're gonna
war's von
have
der Serie.
the
Servus.
press conference at 6:45. That's it from Sebener Straße. See you then. Bye bye.